Hi, welcome to the Doctors Who podcast, and tonight we're discussing the second half of the Wheel of Time Season 1 from Amazon Prime. Last time we talked about the first 4 episodes, and now we're diving into the latter half of the season. What's going to be different? What's up with the Eye of the World? Why is Matt not there? There are lots of other questions, including how we missed Caemlyn and why we were in Tar Valon, but there's a whole lot to unpack, so let's get right to it. Hello and welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. My name is Chris.
My name is Brian.
And my name is Chip.
We are still out of order.
One of these days we'll get it right.
But
Mix
Chip,
it up.
you sat there of your own volition again.
Oh, is that what happened last time?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are covering episodes 5 through 8 of Amazon's Wheel of Time television adaptation. Of course, based on the Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, and completed by Brandon Sanderson after Robert Jordan's untimely passing.
Mm-hmm.
We have a previous video where we talked about episodes 1 through 4, and so this will kind of round out season 1, which does coincide pretty nearly with the end of The Eye of the World. So why don't we jump in and get people's thoughts? Who would like to go first?
I guess me.
All right, you always go first.
So I think in the first discussion we had, I really wanted to like this series more, but by the second half of the series, I was enjoying it, and there's some things that I didn't necessarily like, but I enjoyed the show overall. So one of the things I didn't really like was the character, not necessarily the way they characterized Loyal, but when they introduced him, he just didn't look like I pictured from the book.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that what they envisioned was wrong. It just wasn't sitting with me, because there's a lot of good description of him in the books.
Mm-hmm.
So, with his big tufted ears and his big nose.
I saw something that said that they didn't want to do a lot of CGI work with him because they wanted to be able to have like that genuine interaction with the other characters without them,
I didn't know if they could do. Yeah, and I don't know how much they could do with makeup. But,
right.
Mm-hmm.
But he just didn't look quite right. But I loved the voice. I loved the way they portrayed him. It just, his look was a little bit off. And I didn't really like the way they made some of the changes at Tarwin's Gap from the book, and it seemed like it really diminished Rand's role in the book as this, one of the most powerful channelers ever, and he basically, destroyed the Trolloc army at Tarwin's Gap, but none of that happened in the books or in the show. So it was the female channelers that, which is all right, but it kind of showed Nine's powers and how strong of a channeler she is. But so, I'll be curious to see where they go with it, and also how they bring Matt back into the story, because he got left at the Waygate, and in the books he's there the whole time. So it'll be interesting how they bring that back, full circle.
Yeah, I was a little surprised on... so the first half, it felt like there were a lot of deviations from my perspective from the book, and I felt like there were fewer surprises in the second half, and I think part of it was maybe expectations were a little bit different. Once I saw that, well, it makes sense. You cut out some of the towns along the way, you consolidate, you move things around in order to produce a better watchable show. So some of it I totally understand, getting things moving, or at least trying to give a little bit of, like we talk about the Wolf Brother. Some of these things that really build upon later, you're beginning to see these earlier on, and it I thought the pacing was still a little weird. I thought it was like slow, but they also covered a lot at the same time. It's a little hard to explain, but I thought it was fine. I don't think it was bad, but I'm still struggling as someone who's trying to compare it back to the book, and it's like, oh, yeah, like Loyal, I pictured him a certain way in the book, and he was not presented the way that I was expecting, and I wanted other characters to be more present, like where was Elias, So just different things that I was expecting and maybe didn't see. And maybe that's a little unfair, because this is going to be a multi-season event, and it's not something that all has to be discovered and laid out in season 1.
So, for the most part, I really enjoyed it. It might have helped that I was watching with my wife, who really got into it, and she was like, "Oh, it's Wheel of Time night." She's like, "Yes, yes." So maybe that had some bearing.
Had she
to
read it?
No.
Huh? My wife hadn't either, and she got into it until the end. Then she got a little lost and just was like, "I want to know more. There's so much lore here that I know I'm missing."
Yeah, but they obviously they like Brian said, they consolidated some towns. So instead of going to Caemlyn and meeting up, everybody met up in Tar Valon. Logain being paraded through the streets happened there instead of at Caemlyn. All of these different things. And I get it. Caemlyn really only served to introduce Elaine in the book. That was really the only thing that was a major plot point there. So since she's not coming until presumably next season, it makes sense that they maybe skip that. I was kind of shocked that they laid out the Eye of the World not as the haven of the Green Man, but as the prison of the Dark One, instead of Shia Ghul. See, I got it right that time.
Good job.
Not Shia LaBeouf.
And not Shadar Logoth. And then it was interesting to me how the Horn of Valir was hidden under Aglamar's throne, and they had to dig the rocks out to get to it. But when I think about it, that makes about as much sense as it being at the bottom of the pool in the Wheel of Time along with the Dragon Banner.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Overall, I did really enjoy it. Loyal was not as I expected, like both of you said. We did get to kind of see the ways. There's a little bit of a plot change due to the actor portraying Matt not coming back after the COVID break. So Perrin was the one that found Patton Fane with the horn at the end and had to go chasing after him. So, I mean, overall, this is still on track with the books and with the series. That in the first handful of episodes, in fact, all the way up till episode 7 or 8, they were still not coming out and saying Rand was the dragon. And they finally did do that. I mean, there were hints along the way, right? But if you read the book, you're like, oh yeah, he looks like an Aielman. He's. So
they also did introduce an Aielman or an Aiel woman in. I can't remember which episode it was. They kind of gave the backstory of Rand's birth. But they introduced the race of Aiel before, because we don't see them until book
we did see a corpse.
We did see the corpse.
But Matt and Tom were burying.
But we didn't see the renowned fighting skills.
No, but that was a cool scene.
Yeah.
That was a really cool scene. But, I mean, largely, yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with season 2.
Do we have any... I know it's the way too soon question, but do we know if they have plans on getting to film those, or at least write them soon?
They are at least renewed
They were in
through
production
season
of
3.
some sort.
Are they on 3 already?
Well, they're
I think that I thought... I
greenlit.
don't know if they were...
Yeah,
makes sense.
I don't know if they're still in pre-production or if they'd actually started filming anything for season 2.
Yeah.
But.
So, another thing that we didn't... None of the three of us mentioned, which... I think we talked about a little bit in the first part of this video series, was how creepy the White Cloaks were. And then that only exemplifies itself when we get to Perrin and Egwene being captured.
Tortured.
Tortured.
Perrin's getting tortured.
Yeah. Which is also where they kind of bring out the full Wolf Brother thing, right? That's where his eyes turn. And he also confesses to Egwene that he's the one that killed his wife back in the Two Rivers, which I know is an unpopular plot decision, but I mean, it is what it is, I guess. I
mean, at least they're consistent, and at least they finally broached it. I felt like that lasted a while. I mean, I feel like that's something where you change a major characteristic about a character. It's nice that they at least acknowledge it within the series, at least do something to progress that or resolve it. So I at least appreciated that.
And I understand why they did it, because he really didn't have a lot to do initially, and you needed to make something that made you kind of care about him
Yeah.
or be interested in what he was doing. And the same with Rand, or not Rand, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Matt, coming from the drunken mother and the womanizing father and caring after his sisters and, things that clearly didn't happen, but it kind of allowed you to feel something for the character.
And it's one in the book, got a couple hundred pages to do that. In the show, you've got 10 minutes.
Right.
And you've got to introduce 5 other characters.
And I think Tarwin's Gap, that kind of served to showcase Nynaeve and Egwene instead of Rand decimating the Trolloc armies.
Yeah.
Because he was out doing his own thing. So this kind of gave them something to do during that space during this final conflict as well, right?
Right.
Because they are.
I thought that was a great scene. I didn't like the changes from the Tarwin's Gap story in the book. So, but I don't disagree that it was an opportunity to show, hey, this Nynaeve's a very powerful channeler, and Egwene's not too bad herself. So.
Yeah. But let's talk about Rand's encounter with Balsamon at the Eye.
Oh yeah.
Because he and Moraine go, just the two of them, which is a deviation.
It's a big break from the book too.
And they get to the Eye, and like Balsamon like puts Rand into some sort of like a dream state, and like he's. And he lives out like this perfect life that he had with Egwene, and like Balsamon's like, "Hey, we make this happen." But it's pretty cool because this is the first point in the series that you really get to see Rand channel. In the books, it happens like when he inadvertently gives Bella extra strength when they're when they're being chased.
The only thing they really did in this is when he was confronted by the Dark One, and I can't remember where that happened. The Dark Friend
took down
when he broke through the door. And stuff, so they kind of to me they were kind of telegraphing that it was Rand, but the book readers would know what happened there, and maybe non-book readers would put it together. But
but I mean it's kind of cool because if you look at this picture, you can see the darkness in the flows, the same as you saw with Logain. And so you can I think it's neat how they're showing the Dark One's taint on the one power for the male channelers. And still, like, this is expert casting. Like, he looks like I would picture Rand al'Thor to look like. So that was really cool. If I can get rid of this, there we go. Hey, we're back.
Hey.
And we touched on everything happening in Tar Valon, right? But let's just take a minute to admire.
That's pretty.
How cool they made the city look. How big it is, right? It is not what I expected at all.
No, and the tower's not what I expected.
No.
But I like it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And even when you have everybody inside the tower, like the internal structure and the architecture and the overall look is really neat.
It kind of reminds me of just different shots of Constantinople. I don't know if that was intentional or not, just with some of like the Eastern European sort of domes, and you get some of the towers. It's not how I pictured it, but I actually will say I like this better than what I was picturing.
Yeah, no, it's because I've seen like artists' renders, based on the descriptions of the book, and the tower is usually just like this single spire that just rises above the city. And this is like, you can see the landscape is actually.
When I always said the tower was a little bit separate from the city too, but here it's just kind of overlooking the city.
But there's still walls that make it separate from the rest of the town around it.
Yeah, and then in the background you can see Dragon Mount.
Yes, we can.
Which in my eye was like more of a steep slope, and not so much a
cone shape,
cratery volcano. But it works. So, and then I think the last thing we really wanted to talk about was the horn, right?
Padan Fane.
Yes, Fane.
And I like the casting for Fane. I want to see more of him. He's just the little bit that he's been in there, he stole every scene he's in. So.
Well, and I don't know if you noticed, but when Rand and Matt were watching Logain go through the city, there was a scene where like
He
he
just
was
did it
down
for-
on the other side of the
Yep.
street looking at
Yep.
him, and then he like scampered off.
Yep.
So that was
I
pretty
remember
cool.
that. Yeah.
So, and then this scene really didn't happen until the Great Hunt, did it?
No, this is the only thing that happens with the horn in the Eye of the World
Is they find
is they
it
find it at the
at the
bottom
eye.
of the eye
Yes,
after all
yes.
of.
So say this is
Saeed's
very early in the Great
being
Hunt
used,
in the
yeah.
books where he shows up
And
with,
takes it.
and takes the,
Thank you.
takes the horn.
I was going to say, I don't think that was in Eye of the World,
No.
but this
Sorry,
happened.
we spoiled that.
No,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Technically,
That's
we
okay.
did.
And
That's a good
we
point.
didn't, but it doesn't really spoil the whole book because that's at the
No,
beginning,
that's
and then
at
the
the
whole
very
book is
beginning.
basically how they're going to recapture the horn and
Yep.
and stuff. So.
And another deviation is that Fane also takes Matt's dagger with the horn
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
in the book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, okay.
Because Matt's there
okay.
in the book.
Yeah.
But
and
Wonder
it was-
how-
and-
well,
and
because
it's
in the
gonna come
book, like they Moraine was able to like temporarily separate
But
him,
she needs to get him
but
to
she needs to
Tar
get him
Valon
to Tar
do
Valon
To do
the
the
full
do
healing.
next. Yep.
And so now
But he's still linked to the
is-
dagger.
He's linked to the dagger,
Mhm.
and Fane took off with it, and so it's like we got to get the horn back, and we need the dagger to save
Yep.
Matt's life.
Yeah.
So there's that entire
Well,
dynamic there that
yeah.
I don't know what they're because they
'Cause
were
Matt's
in
long
Tar
gone
Valon.
now.
They
Yeah.
were in Tar Valon already. So
Well, I thought they did a healing, or
They did.
I thought they did with Matt, didn't they?
yeah,
Yeah.
They
or
didn't even,
Moraine did. I don't remember.
Somebody
if it was-
did.
Moraine did. But yeah, they didn't even get to Tar Valon in the.
They never
in
got there in
the
the
book.
Eye of
in
the
the
World.
book, no.
Yeah.
So again, overall, there are deviations, but
Mhm.
I think it works. I'm excited to see what
Yeah.
they're going to do with the subsequent seasons. I hope it does well enough that they're able to see this thing all the way through.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, yeah.
And we'll probably see a lot further consolidation of just locations from
Mhm.
Yeah.
from the economy of
Yeah.
being able to shoot in a location and reuse the location. You're not going
Mhm.
to build 3 different cities when you can do is use one.
I get that.
Oh, and
I do.
the Sanshin,
Yep.
they showed up
They
at the
showed
very
it at the very
end.
end. Shanshan,
However you say it, Shanshin. Yeah,
I don't
Shanshin.
know.
I think that's right.
something
So-
like that. Yeah, and it'll be curious to
They
see.
were the people on the boats at the
Yeah.
end with the tidal
Oh,
wave. That,
got it.
So
Yeah.
I
knowing
was going
that
to say, I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen them or read
Yeah.
about them
Yeah.
before.
they show up in the second book too.
Hmm.
but it'll be interesting to see because we know. I guess when the showrunner Judkins
Yeah.
said that there's 14 books and he's talked about 8 seasons, so we know there's going to be a lot of stuff that they'll pare down
Well, and I think
and
we made the
streamline.
comment. It's like
and the
anything
books get pretty
after
rambling.
Lords of Chaos, A Crown of Swords, Path of
Yeah.
Daggers, Winter's Heart, and Crossroads of Twilight.
Yeah.
Not a lot happens from a plot perspective. It's
Mhm.
small things moving people so they're in the right place for the final act. So
Yeah.
that I think a lot of that's going to be able to be consolidated.
Mhm.
I'm sure.
So
Yep.
yeah. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. We will probably be doing this again when season 2 comes out in like a year or
Probably
14
next
months
November or
or
whatever.
16 months or whatever it happens to be. Please hit the comment section. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. If there's any little bits of information or trivia that maybe we didn't mention or we don't know about, we would love to hear them. We would also love for you to hit the like button and to hit that subscribe button. We are continuing our journey through the written word. We are just about to start with Brandon Sanderson's Well of Ascension. So if Mistborn is your thing, be sure to check out those videos as well. Again, we thank you for joining, and until next time...